What's going on, League of Leaders? Imagine this. You're posting every single day beautiful content. Like your likes are climbing, your followers growing, right? But your calendar is empty. You're showing up, but nothing is coming back. If that's ever happened to you, or if you're living it right now, or if your team is living this right now, this is the conversation for you. My guest spent 20 years as a Division One swimmer, staring at a single black line on the bottom of a pool, learning that greatness isn't built in the spotlight, it's built in the laps that no one else sees. She took
Mhm.
that same discipline and turned social media from a vanity stage into a prospecting engine that's generated millions for her clients. Author of the book, The Black Line, founder of Berman Media PD, Michelle Berman. Michael, welcome to Leadership Live.
My goodness. Thank you, Donnie. That is never gets old hearing that, and I just appreciate you. I'm excited to be here.
I am so pumped to have you. So, Michelle, you didn't start out as someone that gets to tell everyone what to do on social media. You started out in a place. Well, first off, bring us into the place of who you are, what you do. But like, I really want to know the origin. I'm so
Mhm.
intrigued by the Black Line.
Yeah. Well, I can start wherever you want to start, but I think I'll start back to being a teenager and swimming competitively. I think that's the best way to intro this side of the conversation. So I grew up swimming in Southern California, born and raised in SoCal, right by Disneyland, and lived there until I was 18. Was recruited off to college, swam for Rutgers, and went through the traditional recruiting process. Going to multiple different schools on different trips and deciding where I wanted to go. And I remember being on an airplane flying down into New Brunswick, New Jersey, texting my dad as soon as my cell phone service came through to tell him that even if they didn't offer me a scholarship, this is where I wanted to go to school, because I had that Holy Spirit moment of just like, this is where I need to be.
Mm.
Um, and I ended up getting a small scholarship, which was amazing, and ended up saying yes. So I ended up swimming there all 4 years, graduated, and then went into the next phase or chapter. So we'll get back to that. But I started swimming officially, on a team at the age of 5. And the running joke in my family is that my mom was so annoyed that I was at practice with her running around the pool while my sister was actually in practice that she finally just told the coaches to throw me in, and she was assuming that I'd make it to the other side of the pool, and I did. And the rest was history. So, discipline for me, which is something that I talk heavily about, is something I feel like I learned long before I even knew what it actually meant, because I was living it and didn't know that that's what I was doing. But um, swam every day, 5 days a week, swam on Saturdays plus dry land. So 6 days a week as far as like being at the pool. Played a little bit of volleyball, a little bit of tennis, and my parents were semi-professional bowlers. So we were pretty much around sports in some capacity forever. I don't know a life other than that, even still to this day. But I grew up knowing that I was different, I think I'll say, and from a very, very early age, probably 4 or 5, as far back as I can intellectually, recall. I just felt like I was a little bit of an outsider and I couldn't figure out why. And that progressed into my teenage years and even more so into my college years. And now at almost 36 years old, I have a birthday next week, but at almost 36, I'm kind of proud of my differentness, because it's definitely been a blessing for me for sure. But I had parents who were at every swim meet. My mom was in charge of the snack stand, as you can recall, when you go to meets and things, there's always like moms back there. And all the referees, when they were there for the meet for days on end, they would want good food. So my mom was in charge of all of that. And my dad was an announcer for a lot of my swim meets growing up. He was actually an announcer for the Pac-10 several years in a row. He has that voice. His nickname and his social media handles are actually Dad the Voice, and that has stuck with us as a family forever.
Wow.
Um, but there was a little bit of a tumultuous period in my childhood swimming. And I talk about that actually a lot in my book, The Black Line, because I'll tell you, my dad was the type of dad who it was different. It wasn't affirmation all the time, which is actually what I wanted it to be. Instead, it was a single saying that he would always say to me, which is, Michelle, was that the best you could do today? And I remember being very annoyed as a teenager when he would ask me that, because whether I won my race, whether I got dead last, it didn't really matter. The question was always the same. And I would be like, Dad, didn't you just see me win? Or Dad, didn't you just see me tank and get dead last? Like, what are you talking about? But it was the same question over and over and over again for as long as I could ever remember. And now looking back at all of that, I realized why he was doing that and what he was training me to do, subconsciously or consciously. I don't know if he knew what he was really doing, but it has dramatically changed how I attack business. But I will also say, as a very high performing high D on the disc profile, it also can be an Achilles heel. So I'm sure we can talk
Mm,
both sides of that.
yeah, yeah, we definitely want to get. So you grew up in like athletics and sports was everywhere.
Everywhere.
You have to know then the like you mentioned the dopamine cycle. I'm sure
Yeah.
you saw lots of that
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you when you see the transfer. I've heard of a study. I've never been able to find it since I was a sales manager many moons ago. There was one study that says the number one thing that you can find, like it's not in terms of high producing salespeople, if you're recruiting, it was actually people who have competed in team sports in the past.
Absolutely.
Do you
Mhm.
find that to be true?
Well, I think we operate on a different wavelength, Donnie. There's just no way to describe that. And I've had numerous people time and time and time again tell me that they've changed their recruiting strategy to be centered around athletic prone individuals or people who come from a history of it. Um, Now, obviously, you can't put that on a job description and say you must be an athlete to work for me. But I do think that it changes the inner fabric of our DNA, right? We're just raised differently, and I think being a self-employed entrepreneur now for almost 12 years. I started my company in November of 2014 at 24 years old. I had absolutely no flipping clue what I was doing. But and sometimes I laugh and think, do I even now? But and
See
I'm
what
being funny, but that's the truth.
you went from college to being self-employed. You didn't
Pretty
waste
much.
any time in getting
Mm-mm.
bumped around.
I did
Amazing.
have one. I did have, well, I had 2 jobs outside of college that I worked for somebody else, not counting bartending. So I did some bartending at Ardmore Country Club, where the PGA tournament was several years ago. But I remember I served Phil Mickelson lunch and a whiskey. He ordered a club sandwich and a whiskey on the rocks, and he tipped me $100 because he didn't know it wasn't a non-tipping course. But my only other professional or 2 professional jobs corporate wise, first out of college, I was working for a company that sold direct energy door to door for businesses. So I literally had to go in and out of businesses and get their electric bills, ask them to
Ooh.
see it, go through the script. Hey, can I see your electric bill and help save you money essentially? And as shitty of a job as it was so impactful
Oh
for
yeah.
what I do today. And I was the number 1 sales rep in all of the Northeast, and I was broke as a joke still, which is why I had to work at the golf course. So I made more money working at the golf course in 3 days than I did in a full week of working for this company. But it taught me so much, and it gave me such a huge understanding of sales. And then my only other job was actually I moved back to Southern California. My dad was going through stage 4 chemotherapy or in a stem cell transplant at City of Hope in Southern California. And so I moved back to be closer to my parents as my dad was going through this process.
Mm.
And I worked for a small public relations firm, but I lasted 6 months. And the day I quit, I walked into the boss's office because, long story short, she was overcharging and didn't give a crap about the client, right? She wasn't asking for the client to come in, didn't meet with anybody, just charged them an arm and a leg way more than she ever should, and didn't ever ask for the client's feedback, frankly, didn't care. So I walked into her office and I simply said, there has to be a better way to treat people and to do this. So I quit, and I don't need 2 weeks. I don't care about your money. I don't want it. I'm going to go start my own company. And that weekend, I went door to door in Palm Desert, California, where my parents were living at the time, in a business complex, and landed 7 new clients to help them in a matter of 48 hours. And I only charged them $500, which is stupid, but 7 clients and $500 a month, for me to do all of their content, for me to help them with process, all of it. Right. And I remember telling them, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never done this before, but I promise I'll be in here twice a week and I'll learn as I go. And I promise you won't regret it. And 7 said yes in 72 hours, and I was off to the races.
Oh my gosh. I love that pitch. Hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to be here and I will figure it out. You
Mhm.
need me. How phenomenal is that?
I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was 24 and very like, "Woo, I have no idea," but here we go.
And you got 7 yeses. Like
Yep.
that quickly. It's so funny.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many people I talk to, and I'm sure you do as well, that if they just walked in with confidence, it's funny, like, I have another pull story in my mind. If they just walked in with confidence, uh, they don't I think a lot of us outthink ourselves, Michelle,
Yeah.
with what we're doing, and I I have 2 granddaughters. We're at a birthday party. The older granddaughter, cautious. The younger one doesn't know she can't swim. She's 2. In her mind, like, so it's, like, really dangerous for her,
Yeah.
like, but like, she's able to go under now. She's taking breaths, and it's like, oh, she is going to it's this sometimes I don't wanna call it dumb confidence, but it's not founded on intelligence of any type, but she's
Mhm.
learning it because of the repetition she's getting because she's being fearless. And I'm that fearless approach you had is oh, there's just a lot to even pull from that. So how did you learn your way? Because that's a question, right? Now you're the founder of Berman Media.
Yep.
And so you know, swimming to like what was a transition? And now you help a lot of people into this. Like you found it by saying, I'm just gonna figure this out because I can do it. And then did you fall in love with it or what
Yeah, it was such a journey, Donnie. So in 2014, I bought 2 Instagram accounts back when Instagram was kind of coming onto the scene. So I bought 2 relatively large accounts at the time. One of them had 100,000 followers, one of them had about 200,000. I spent 12 grand on it that I didn't have. But it cost me 12 grand to do it. I bought both of the accounts and started selling ads on them like you would buy and sell ad space today,
Mhm.
right on Facebook per se. But this was not a Facebook thing. You couldn't do that back in the day. Um,
Interesting.
so I was buying and selling ads on the platform. So like a company would reach out and say, "Hey, Michelle, how much for an hour? 500 bucks for 24 hours, whatever the price is I would name." They would send me an ad, they would send me copy, and then I would make the graphic to go on the platform or the video, whatever it was. And I would post it. And then in the process of the ads going up on my account, I also had to post my own account content and grow the platform. So between these 2 accounts and selling ads and doing all the stuff, I mean, it was a full-time job, but I made a ton of money out of the gate quickly. And I was like, whoa, this is interesting, right? Like I might be onto something. But in the process, I got really, really good at fishing out the fake, right? So back in the day, there was a lot of power likes, which is fake likes, fake
Mhm.
views, fake followers, everything. It was really bursting on the scene 2015, 2016, where people were buying hundreds of thousands of followers for, 20 bucks, 50 bucks.
Wow.
Um, and as someone who my job was to help a brand sell product by placing their ads on accounts, I started sniffing all of it out. And what I really, really realized, and fast forward to today, was it's your content matters, right? How you show up on the platform does matter visually, aesthetically, from a brand perspective, the value side of your content, the ability to showcase your personality, professional side, all of the things, right? We could get into that. But what I really discovered was I didn't make money because I had amazing content that went viral at all. I didn't, right? Some influencers, lucky, they can do that, but that was not me. And what I realized was, how did I get every deal I had ever had? And how I got those deals was because I was really good at talking to people. So I started figuring out the sort of psychology, if you will, behind the messaging side of things. So, like, if I were to send you a message on Instagram, what would that sound like? Right? How
Okay.
would I get you to actually pay attention to my message and not see it as spam and then therefore want to actually talk to me? So I started building this process out. In 2019, to end of 2018, early 2019, I married the love of my life 2 months after I met him, 2 months to the day, almost after I met him.
Wow. That's
Um,
bold.
Very bold. Happily married, almost 8 years. We have 2 babies, 2 baby boys. But what I remember Dave telling me was, I mean, go for it, babe. Because I remember asking him, like, do you think I should sell these accounts? Or do you think I should go full throttle and build this course that I want to build? And he just was like, yeah, let's do it. Right. He had, no qualm about it. And I did exactly that. So I sold both of the accounts for close to $90,000, which was insane. Great return on that. And then I built Beyond the Method. So in July of 2019, Beyond the Method was born, and the entire premise of that part of the course, and now a new segment of the course, which we can talk about later on, is how do I teach mortgage sales professionals, entrepreneurs, anyone that is outsourcing or trying to go find new opportunity for themselves, how can they outbound prospect through social? Because social is a vehicle that we're all spending time on, we're all spending money on, we're all spending, we have, videos, we have branding done, we have all this stuff, right? And you really don't need a website anymore. I mean, most people have them, but you really don't need one to be successful, in my opinion. And you certainly don't need to spend $5, $10, $15,000 on them at all. But social is now our currency. And so if I'm going to spend time and energy and money on social and on my presence, it better make me money. So that's
Mm,
where what I
mm.
teach is not the followers, not the video views, not the likes, because 95% of that crap is fake, frankly. Meaning like people are purchasing that stuff. And I have seen it time and time and time again. I was on a podcast back in 2019, and I remember thinking that the timing of this was insane because I was going on this huge show, and he had, he claimed he had 100,000 downloads in that particular month that my episode was going to go out. And in my mind, I'm just like, I'm this brand new girl on the block launching this course. This is just going to skyrocket me. Right. And I think today it would be the equivalent of like going on the Sean Ryan show, where you're just like, this is going to launch me into wherever. And that's sort of how I felt at the time. But I remember watching the episode go live and watching the video on his Instagram thinking, okay, this is going to, take off. This is going to take off. In the first 2 minutes, I had like 5 likes on and this was on his account. So in the first 2 minutes, 5 likes. And then from 2 minutes to 10 minutes, it went to like 2,500, 3,000. So again, remember where I had come from. So I had sniffed that out, and I essentially looked at all of it.
Interesting.
It was 100% fake. So
Whoa.
I made a bold move, a bold decision, and I reached out to him and I said, I can tell that these are all fake. Can we please have a conversation? He actually blocked me on Instagram. And so I ended up reaching out to his team and saying, hey, I'd like to schedule a meeting with this gentleman. I want to go over, how did he think I did? That I'm new to podcasting, so I'd like to get his feedback and his opinion, blah, blah, blah. He took the meeting, and I remember on the meeting, he was so embarrassed, Donnie. He was like, I'm so sorry. Nobody's ever called me out on that. And I said, well, I am. And I did, because that's the world that I came from, and I saw it. And you're falsifying your advertising to make money. And that's kind of shitty. Right. So long story short, I went from that to, I now built a course around it. And the course, known as Beyond the Method, has a subsegment called Drivers and Leavers, which is my signature prospecting program that I teach. And it's for anybody, sales professionals, entrepreneurs. Anyone.
I love it. There's how many people, Michelle, would you say are algorithm monkeys? We're doing what the algorithm tells us to do. It's, like we're doing it for the vanity metrics, the likes, the follows, or whatever. And the truth is either they are, it's so funny. So I've been doing an experiment on YouTube, and we're almost up to 20,000 followers now on one of these channels. But when you look at
any of them.
no, that's the dumbest thing. I feel like that, but like, hey, you just called me out. No, I'm kidding.
No.
But no, it's funny when you look at these people. There was something on my coaching channel that went viral, and sort of. And I'm looking at, and no clients came from it. It was kind of by accident. And I looked, and I'm like, who cares? Are these, like, I just noticed this comment from someone called Purple Piss Eater. And I'm like, there's no way this person is going to become, I still remember Purple Piss Eater, if you're still out there. There's no way that person would ever convert to anything. But I just did a dance or whatever. And maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I think a lot of us are doing dances for people that will never convert, or we're doing it for bots that are out there. And it's just like we're chasing our tails. Yep. You made something
You're on the hamster wheel. You're on the hamster wheel. Yeah. And Donnie, I don't post every day. I post maybe 2 or 3 times a week at the most. I'm very intentional when I show up and produce content. It's got to really be like in my heart and in my soul for this piece of content to come out. So, most content creators would tell you I'm doing it all wrong. Okay. But what I can tell you is, I took maternity leave. After having my second son, I took a full 3 months to be 100% present, staring at my brand new little boy. And what I can tell you about that is that's not possible without outbound prospecting like a boss and using social to be able to do it. And so I would send one message every day without fail. And that started in
That's
November of 2024, which is the story of the Black Line and why I wrote the book. And there's a lot we can unpack there. But in November of 2024, life erupted for me in a very negative, hard way. And Drivers and Levers was born out of that experience. And what Drivers and Levers was me getting back to what I had been teaching everybody else to do. But all of a sudden, oh crap, my back's up against a wall and I must now actually do it every single day, or else my company will fail and I will have to shut my doors and I will have to fire all of my employees. And there's a huge story there. We probably won't have time to get through all of it, but there is a lot there. And Drivers and Levers, when I built it, it was this simple: one message every day to somebody that you do not know, name dropping someone you do. So using someone as leverage to get to somebody that you don't have a relationship with,
oh,
and packaging it in a formula of how to actually talk to people, which was my superpower. Um, so
Michelle, you just
good.
that's gold you
Yeah.
just gave to like, and I just want to pause because leaders or people that you're leading right now, like this
Mhm.
one thing you said, and I that's one of my YouTube videos I really, really like. I was going to ask you about was what you're talking about now. This discipline
Yep.
of no matter what. So you set the bar really low, but it's
Yep.
no freaking matter what. There's no
No matter
emotion. Like, can you go like go micro on that one and zoom in
Yeah,
to the
well,
message of no matter what?
I wanna tell this side of the story. I think it's important because it sets the stage for why this was so impactful for me. So I have a 4.5-year-old. His name is Knox. He is amazing. And when I started my motherhood journey, my company was killing it. I had a girl that was working for me as a CEO. We went a solid 2 years straight without a month ever in the green, or sorry, without a month ever in the red. So every single month we were in the green, which for a small business and a business of entrepreneurial mind, right? That's what we all pray for. We want to have green months every single month. But the reality was life happened. And in early 2024, this person who was one of my absolute closest friends, our children were 24 hours apart and they were both boys. So our kids were born together, raised
Mm.
together. She was my best friend. She called me on a Friday night at 7:45 p.m. And this was in May of 2024. She called me to tell me that she was leaving and she was going to go be the CEO of another company. And it was a client of our company that she was leaving to go be the CEO of their company. And so, as anyone can imagine, in that moment, my heart sank, and I remember being on all fours in my office, hyperventilating and crying, and just thinking like, "There's just no way that I could ever survive this. Like, what am I going to do?" And I hired too quickly, which is a decision that a lot of us make, unfortunately, when we're in a stressful situation like that. So I hired someone too quickly, and that person sucked the wind out of my sails and was the wrong hire. And someone in that role, their job is to help make you money, and she was not making me money; she was costing me money. So by September, October of that year, so in just a short 5 months, my company had gone from having well over 100,000 in our business bank account at the end of payroll every month to $7,000 total. That's it. Because I had been putting a lot of money into other things, right? You got to spend money to make money. And I had a coach that I still use to this day that I love, a mentor that I work with. Like I never turned those funnels off because that wasn't the right thing to do, right? You got to keep putting your energy where it needs to be. But I was sitting in my car picking up my son from school. He was in pre-K. And I looked at my business bank account after payroll had finished, and I only had 7,000 left in my bank account. And payroll per pay period was 14 grand at the time. So I was screwed, right? And I called my mentor, one of my best friends, still to this very day. And I said, "What do I do?" And she said, "Michelle, you have to get back to being good at what you're teaching everybody else to do. You have to go do it." And you're not, you haven't been. And that's when Drivers and Levers was born. And I am so proud of the fact that I came back from that because most people wouldn't have, right? I have a college degree, I have a master's degree, I have tons of experience. I could have gone and gotten a CMO job or, a sales job somewhere and just called it good. But I
Mm,
said, there's no way. Like, I'm not letting go of the freedom and the flexibility of the company that I
mm.
put my entire life into. So I put my back up against the wall and I said, Michelle, excuse my French, but go fucking figure it out. And I did. And fast forward to today, we're in a totally different place, and being able to take 3 months of maternity leave. I don't know if anybody really understands the magnitude of how amazing that is, because all 3 of those months were already in the green before I took them. So to go into having a baby knowing that March, April, and May were already green before they even happened, that's what Drivers and Levers does. And for anybody who's a mom, anybody who's a spouse that wants to be present with their kids, especially in those early months, I mean, I have goosebumps even thinking about it. It doesn't happen without one message every day without fail.
One message every day to someone you don't
Without
know, name
Yep,
dropping someone that
you
you
do.
do
Somebody that
or
you do.
someone that
Yep.
they do.
Nope. So one message every day to somebody that so me or you, that we do not know, and we name drop someone that we have in common, right? We call them a lever. That's why I call it Drivers and Levers. So a
Mhm.
lever is essentially someone that's going to build a bridge between you to get to that person that you don't know. So that person is a mutual in common between the two. And the formula or the framework of that is I have to send a message to someone that I don't know, name dropping someone that I do, in an attempt to get an opportunity that drives business. So that's why it's called Drivers and Levers.
I love it.
I don't say leads on purpose because their mindset's wrong, right? You're thinking about, I need to go get leads. No, you don't. You need to go get the opportunity that creates the lead. So
Oh gosh.
driver is the thing that you must do on a monthly basis that creates revenue for your business. For me, podcasting is one of them. I love meeting amazing new people. It's also helpful for my business. That's how I grow. That's how people find out about me, right? The other thing I do is I speak a lot. I love keynote speaking. I love getting to be in rooms with people that I can share what I do for a living and also break bread with them. So I'm back on the speaking circuit in August. Actually, I'm really excited after taking a few months off, obviously, because I had a baby. So being back and knowing I get to hit the road again in August is exciting. But keynote speaking for me is one of those things that's how I get in rooms of one to many, right? Another big thing that I love to do is webinars. Why? Because they keep me home. So webinars is my third driver. So those are my 3 drivers. Anybody listening to this, regardless of what aspect of leadership you're in, if you're recruiting, one of your drivers is likely going to be meetings with a certain number of people on a monthly basis, because that number, let's say it's 10, right? If you have 10 meetings with new potential recruits, what's your batting average? 20%, 30%? I don't know. You have to ask yourself that question. But how many do you ultimately want to convert on a monthly basis? Let's say it's 2. Okay, well, how many meetings do you have to get to the 2? That's your batting average. But your driver is the meeting itself that you need to land, because that's the opportunity that presents the lead to you, right? So people are looking at it as, I need to go get a lead. I need to go get a lead. No, you don't. You need to go get the opportunity that gives the lead the chance to be born. And then the lever is what
So
makes the
good.
opportunity possible.
Ah, Michelle, I feel like that you're literally dispelling something that I think we've been getting wrong since, I don't know, since Excel. And once we started putting people in lists and
Mhm.
they become, I don't want to say faceless and nameless, but there's like this detachment from a lead when we
Mhm.
talk about that way. I love you called it a not a driver, a
Opportunity.
lead, right? So it's like it's there's a connection here. And
Mhm.
we have AI right now that can go scrape and send and I'm not saying that some of this mass stuff doesn't work, but I do know this. I think we're about to see face to face, and this like messaging is a component of face to face of actual human connection is about to see a massive comeback because we're all getting spammed with the same crap created by the same AI.
Oh,
We
for
know
sure. Mhm.
how how do you like you talk about discipline though over hacks and trends, and that's with social media and that's with the AI. Can you expand that one a little bit more for
Well, yeah, I
us?
mean, ask yourself the question, right? Are you spending time, energy, and money on social? Most people are. And are you generating an ROI from it? Like, can you 100% say that call on my calendar, or that loan that I closed, or that car I sold, or that insurance, whatever I wrote, whatever it was, right? Came from that lead on Instagram or that lead on LinkedIn, or did that relationship originate on Facebook, whatever it
Mhm.
was? right? Can you quantify it? And most people cannot. They cannot genuinely say that something came from social. And I'm here to tell you that 99% of my relationships and opportunities that I have built and that have then in turn created leads for me have come directly from social, because it is that simple. I, every single day, make a decision to send somebody a message that I do not know using LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook. I'm really heavy on the LinkedIn and Instagram side. That's my personal preference, especially because I'm more so after, the C-suite executives, the people who are in charge of the sales rally or the conference or whatever it is. Those are more my type of lead or opportunity that I want, and as far as getting in front of. So those are the platforms I primarily prospect on. But I send one message every day without fail to someone I do not know, name dropping someone I do in order to get to them. Now, the framework of a message itself is very important. And I teach this heavily in the Black Line, actually, and in Drivers and Levers. But what it is using personal connection. So you were talking about AI, which I just was on a podcast on my show, actually, with a woman who I'm very good friends with who specializes in AI. But
Mhm.
what was interesting about this conversation and why I loved the episode was what she was telling us is that AI is so anti-humanized now, because what's happening is people are using AI to do all of the work instead of doing all the work and putting it into AI so that AI becomes an assistant, not the other way
Yes.
around. And
Yeah.
she asked, or kind of posed this question even to me, and I was like, oh shoot, I don't have that. But you and I, Donnie, both, right? What would happen right now today if either our Claude or our Chat GPT just totally took a poop and everything was gone? Do we have that? Do we have everything backed up somewhere? Think about like our iPhones. Do we have our iPhones backed up? I don't.
Yes.
I mean, I have my iPhone backed up, but I don't have my
Yeah.
Chat GPT backed
I
up,
don't. Yeah.
right?
No.
But
Yeah.
she said, the way she said that, you have to ask yourself, "Oh my gosh, what would I
Yeah.
do?" I
Yeah.
would be SOL, frankly, right now, which is why I hired her. But the point is, people are using AI as, this is the easy button. I'm going to go use this and it's going to take this all off my plate, instead of doing all of the work in AI so that it can then in turn genuinely be a source of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like making it easier for us, right? Making us more efficient. But when I prospect someone, there's one thing that is the most important aspect of any message, and it's personal connection. Because if you name drop someone, you better actually have a relationship with that person that you name dropped, right? Because if I message you, Donnie, and I say, hey, I'm reaching out to you, I just got off a call with this person. He mentioned that I should reach out to you and that there might be some synergy between me and you for a sweet podcast episode. You're probably going to go ask that person, hey, do you know who this Michelle is? Or you're going to advocate or kind of
Yep.
validate, am I who I say I am? And
Mhm.
and if I'm not, then you're going to be like, well, wow, that was pretty lame. Michelle just name dropped that person and doesn't even know that person. So I was just trying to fake it, right? Or pretend like I had this relationship. And people can sniff that out. So personal connection is so important, because if you're going to name drop someone, what is your relationship with them? Do you have anything that you can actually say about you and that person? And that is
Mhm.
how we use leverage properly, instead of just saying, oh, I'm just going to make myself look good by name dropping this person. But hopefully you don't reach out to them because I don't really actually know them.
Oh
Um,
god, that's
so
slimy. So I'm curious, this is just me as the prospect, right? Like, obviously, people who are here, everyone's in the sales game. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're in sales, if you're a leader, you have to sell and connect in some way. So I love
yeah,
the heavy focus on prospecting. I'm thinking this way, first off, the people that you're identifying, because obviously it's not just one message to anybody. I want to
no.
know, like, the criteria for how you boil that down. I'm hearing you say, like, it's like, know who your target audience is and maybe zero in on
Well,
LinkedIn or
knowing
Inst
what your driver is. So that's the most important thing, and I'm glad you said that, but, the key is, right, leverage is not about looking important, because I think,
Mhm.
even for me back in the day, I thought leverage was simply, like, mentioning someone's name to get access to another person, but people can feel when you're using a relationship versus genuinely honoring a connection, which is, I think a lot of people just casually name drop without explaining why that relationship actually mattered. But
Mm,
to go to your specific point, when we're messaging someone, we have to have an intention behind that message. Why am I messaging you? and which lever can I pull to get what I need or what I want, right? So
Okay.
that's why anybody in sales needs to identify what their drivers are first and foremost. Because if you don't know what your drivers are, then the rest doesn't matter, right? Like if you're going to send a message just to send a message, that's kind of pointless. But if you're going to send a message, what do you want out of it? Do you want a podcast episode out of it? Do you want to get an opportunity to be in front of the person in charge of the proposals for an event, right? Do
All
you
right.
want an opportunity to get in front of an office of 20 realtors if you're a lender, right? Like,
All right.
what do you want?
So give all right, I'm gonna throw an example at you, and you can take it and chew on it if you want to. There are two people that let's just say they're in my sphere. One
Mhm.
of them runs a large mortgage company, and like they have lots of your ideal people. Another one of them runs an event that's all for real. So one of the biggest events in America for mortgage and real estate professionals. Um, you know this now. Now you do. Um, would you do you just go through and say, hey, I just had a great conversation with Donnie. Do you get my permission? Do you get me to roll out the red carpet for you? What's your strategy
That's
within
a
that?
great, great question. And I get asked it every time I talk to somebody. So the answer to that is it's really up to you as the person that's going to go send the message on what is your relationship with the lever, right?
Mhm.
I have a relationship with you now. It's a newer relationship. So if I'm going to go message someone and name drop Donnie right now today, I'm going to ask Donnie first, right? But like Cindy Ertman, I don't know if you know the name, but she's one of the
Mhm.
number one female mortgage coaches on the planet. She's also
Mhm.
my absolute best friend on planet Earth. And I talked to her this morning and I talk to her every day. And she was the woman I mentioned back in that story I was telling when I lost my employee. She was the person I was on the phone with on all fours in my office for 2 hours on a
Mm.
Friday
Mm.
night. But Cindy and I are very, 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 very good friends. And if I'm going to name drop Cindy, I don't have to ask, right?
Got it.
I just can. But what I will say is that's what we hope for when we build a relationship with someone that we feel aligned with. I feel very aligned with you, Donnie, on multiple things we were talking offline about our books and things that we have coming up that we want to
Mhm.
do. Right? We have a lot of alignment. If I get on a show or if I'm, talking to someone, I'm like, there's really not a whole lot there. There's not a lot of depth. Even if that person can get me something that I want or that I like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to do it.
I agree. I do.
Because it doesn't feel right.
Following alignment is good. I'm curious. We're gonna like you're giving us overtime, so thank you for this. But this is just so good. I want to know tactically. Do you video message, voice message, super special text message, images, gifs? Like what would you do? What's
Yeah.
your is there a style? Is it dependent on the person or
It depends on my mood, I think. No,
ah
I'm just
okay.
no, I'm being funny. The answer is yes, voice notes are very, very common. I love them because also it's in a sea of a lot of AI. I really
Mhm.
want people to know I said that. You might hear my kid in the background. You might hear me on a treadmill. If you ever get a voice note from me and I sound like I'm out of breath, it's probably because I'm on a treadmill. I'm currently training for another half marathon in October. And so I
Whew.
have to run a lot on my treadmill in my garage because I have 11-week-old. Okay. But the truth is, voice noting I think is really powerful because people can hear the inflection in your voice. They can tell it's you. They can hear your heart too, which I think really matters. Video messaging shares, the same sort of the same principle, but you can also just send a really good message that's very well written that follows the 4-part framework that I share. The most important thing about your 4-part message, two things. Number one, personal connection, which we've already alluded to. Number two, is making the person on the other end of that message. So the person you're messaging, you want them to almost feel like their ego is being stroked in a way, right? In a good way, not in a
Mhm.
bad way, but in a good
Mhm.
way. Meaning you have done or what their event is or what they've done from a career standpoint wise. And you can say, Donnie, I know that you have an awesome show. And I just wanted to let you know I've listened to 5 or 6 episodes and you're an incredible interviewer. What that does when you send that message and you, Donnie, read that is
Mm.
you feel good. That's the dopamine that you need in order to care about listening to what the rest of that message from me was. So there is a framework to that, right? And I was
Mhm.
telling you offline before we started that just this morning I was driving to a book signing And there's this woman on LinkedIn that sent me a message saying, hey, Michelle, I'd love to connect with you. It looks like we have several mutual connections. And then her call to action was lame, but it was like, do you want to jump on my Calendly link so we can connect? So I responded and I said, who are the personal connections, or who are the connections that we share? And I knew that she didn't know, but I still asked the question, right? And
Mhm.
she responds back to me and she goes, oh, well, it looks like we have 5 mutual connections. So she couldn't even name one person that we actually had in connection, because she just looked at her LinkedIn profile and it said we had 5, right? So I just deleted her friend request and didn't accept it. Whereas most people would have accepted it thinking, oh, that's another one. Now my profile looks better from
Right.
a visibility standpoint, but I don't want it. I don't want that. Right. So
Love it.
I could keep dissecting that, but I
Oh,
won't. There's just so
oh,
much.
there is. I love that, the one thing I love, Michelle, is that so many of us we're putting too many details, we're adding too many things, we're making it complex, and you've taken it, and you said, "This is freaking simple." Does that put you
Mhm.
in the green, or does that put you in the red, or black, or where are we at? And to bring it back to the black line,
Yeah.
I wanna know, if there was one step, this will be the final question, and then tell us where we can find you. If there was, like, one thing that we can do to make movement towards the discipline and not the dopamine, towards staying in our lane, staying disciplined, what would be the one thing that we could do towards that? And, that you just imagine, like, it's a person that hears it, and they know they're not. They're either on or off, or they're completely off. How can they take a step in the Michelle direction here?
So I wanna start by saying the black line is a figure of speech. It's an analogy. And what I want you guys to hear me say, or I guess more so visualize when you hear me say this, is everybody's got their own black line. Donnie, you have your own black line. I have my own black line. What is it? And what does that mean? That means that you have a visual anchor that does not move. So it
Mm,
is a non-negotiable thing in your life, right? For me, I swam the mile for 13 years of my competitive swimming career. And in the mile, if you're familiar with the swimming program, it's 66 laps in a short course pool. It's 30 laps in an Olympic pool, which is what you see on TV during the Olympics. But that black line on the bottom of a pool is there for a reason. It is a visual anchor. It is the thing that you can stare at that will get you from one side of the pool to the other side of the pool, and it doesn't move. It doesn't care
mm,
if you're not having a good day. It doesn't care how you feel that day. And it certainly doesn't care what the audience or the crowd is doing, right? So for me, it was the anchor that got me from one side of the pool that I could trust would then get me to the other side of the pool if I followed it. So if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, I have a saying that I love, and I'll leave you with this, which is, and discipline is not a noun. Excuse me. Discipline is a verb, right? So discipline is not a person, place, or thing. It's not a thing that we just conceptualize and don't do anything with. Discipline is a verb. It is an action. It is something that we must do. And you were, making the comment about confidence. Confidence for me, especially with my childhood and how I was raised and bullied and all the things growing up, I didn't have the confidence at all, right? But where did the confidence come from? The confidence came from action, and the action that I took then created the confidence that now has built the momentum that I now am sitting in, in my career. But don't get me wrong, I have imposter syndrome just like everybody else. We all do. I have days where I get no's that I didn't think was going to be a no, that shocks me, or I get chosen over by somebody else. And that is always going to be the case. But what I always come back to, and what I never fail is, or never fail to remember or to understand, is that I have one thing that I can do every single day that puts the ball in my court and maintains the life that I want to live as a very present mom, as a present wife, as someone who can travel the world. One of the things on my heart, I was just having a conversation with one of my best girlfriends this morning, that I have the travel bug. I need to get out of the house and go somewhere. And I love that I've built a career that allows me to do that. But whenever I feel stress, whenever I feel anxiety, whenever I feel like I'm being pulled off, that's exactly what the world does to us. I mean, you want to get biblical about it, right? That's what the devil does. He takes us away from what matters.
mm.
And for me, the black line, the visual analogy, and why I titled the book that, is it's the thing that brings me back to center every single time without fail, because I know that I can do one message every day. I don't have any excuse, even with an 11-week-old and even with a 4.5-year-old that's got 17 sports we're doing, right? there is zero excuse for me not to send the one message every day that's going to move the needle in my business and keep my calendar full.
I love it. Where can we find you, Michelle? We need you to speak at companies. We need you to coach our people. Where can we find you?
BermanMediaPD.com, website wise, but my Instagram, my LinkedIn, Berman Media Social, LinkedIn, Michelle Berman Michael. I'm on all the platforms. I am on YouTube as well. All my long form stuff is there. It's fun. I like long form too. I don't know about you, Donnie, but I enjoy long form. But yeah, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube.
They should name drop me too, and then you should make them prove it. Tell them, ask them if they know a crazy fact about me. Well,
the black line is on Amazon. I see your code on there. So yeah, if you want to purchase the black line, it is on Amazon, and then Audible will be officially ready by the end of summer.
Ooh, that's how I read. I don't. I listen. Michelle, thank you for absolutely bringing the thunder. Leaders, we've leveled up, right? If we can lead better, we can live better, and we know that options isn't how we succeed. It's clarity that creates our confidence. And Michelle, you brought us closer to the Gandhi quote where he says, "My life is my teaching." It's like some of us just go do what you teach. And if you want someone to make this jungle of social media simple and profitable for you, Michelle's your woman. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Donnie.
Till next time, guys. When